we will move on to a very closely related topic locally. Lake Mitchell and Friends of Firestill Creek. We're fortunate to have Dr. Paula Mazur from Dakota Wesleyan University, and she is a Friends of Firestill Creek board member. So she will be presenting on Lake Mitchell and Friends of Firestill public-private partnership to improve water quality in the Firestill Creek Lake Mitchell watershed. One of our favorite lakes that seems to continue to present green shades in the summer and late summer and fall. So excited to have that presentation here today. So with that, take it away, Paula.
I'm not seeing her name up here, John.
Yeah.
Paula, are you with us this morning?
All right, so we will call an
Paula
audible.
is here. She should be showing up in just a second.
Perfect.
Paula, are you able to share your screen?
There we go. Yes. For some reason, I only had the participant screen there for a while. So I rejoined and I think I'm on now.
And yep, we can see your screen.
All right. Are you seeing my slides?
Yep, you're good to go.
All right. So as you said, I am a professor of chemistry, and normally if I'm speaking at a conference, I'm talking about my research results. But today I'm here to tell you a story about Lake Mitchell and the legacy we inherited there and what we hope to do about it. So for those of you who don't know, Lake Mitchell is a reservoir that was established in 1928. It's on the Firestill Creek watershed. It's a tributary of the James River, and it's in northwest Davison County, indicated there on the map of South Dakota. It's a shallow, less than 22-foot, well-mixed lake. We have no shortage of wind energy in this state, and it keeps this shallow lake very well mixed throughout the entire water column. And it's about 693 acres in extent, and it has a very, very large watershed area that feeds the lake. We've got about 350,000 acres feeding our lake. In fact, when I show a map of the watershed like I have here on the left, it's hard to actually spot the lake, which is why I've indicated it with an arrow. And the watershed covers most of Aurora County and parts of Girard and Douglas County, as well as a little bit of Davison at the end. And of that area, most of it is in either cropland or pasture land, unsurprising for South Dakota. We've got about 125,000 acres in cropland and about over 200,000 acres in pasture land. The pasture land is indicated in purple on that map. And all of that area feeds into Lake Mitchell, giving us about a 500 to 1 acre of watershed to acre of lake area ratio. When managing lakes in the Midwest, everything above about 40 to 1 watershed to lake ratio can be occasionally problematic. And our upstream producers over the last 20 years have really taken advantage of a lot of the state and federal opportunities to improve runoff. And each individual producer is contributing fairly little of nutrients to the watershed compared to what they could be. But we've got such a sheer number of acres that regardless, we're struggling with algal issues. And this is what we're up against. Starting in about 1985, the city of Mitchell started noticing problems. By then, the reservoir was 57 years old and had been accumulating nutrients and problems for a while, and they finally started showing up. By about 2003, we abandoned Lake Mitchell as a water source for the city and switched to an alternate water source. And we started trying to clean up our reservoir. A number of cooperative programs have been really helpful in reducing the input to the lake. Right now, we get about 0.14 to 0.26 pounds of phosphorus per acre per year coming into the lake, almost all of that in the spring runoff. And other problem lakes in the Midwest, that can be as high as 1.5 pounds per acre per year. So we're down a tenth of that. So on average, our upstream partners aren't doing too bad, but there's just such a huge watershed that we still have major issues with the lake. Now in 2003 and 4 and 5, we tried alum, whole lake alum addition to the lake to try and reduce phosphorus levels. And these are the phosphorus levels after each addition. And what we saw is that we were averaging about 600 parts per billion total phosphorus, almost entirely as dissolved phosphate, and before the first alum addition. And the first alum addition took it down initially, and then we surged back up by the end of the summer to about 600. Second alum addition knocked it down initially at the beginning of the summer, took it back up to about 500 or 600 by the end of the season. Third alum addition, same result. And so every time we tried whole lake alum treatment at great cost, we returned to our previous level of phosphorus within a single season. Now, this is 2017 to 2020 data. Our phosphorus in the middle of the summer is routinely up to about 1,400 parts per billion, or if you would prefer micrograms per liter. As a reference, everything over about 100 is considered severely eutrophic. So this lake is well over the threshold. It's a lovely place if you're an algal cell to have a nice bloom. We have tons of phosphorus available. And so starting in about 2015, the city started on a endeavor to attempt to clean up Lake Mitchell. We wanted a nice lake that we could use for a backup water source, that we could use for recreational activities. We've got bike paths all around the lake, and the breezes coming off the lake didn't smell so good during one of those harmful algal blooms. We didn't want our dogs getting near the harmful algal blooms. So we recruited or hired a consulting firm from Omaha to help us with this. I did want to, mention our harmful algal blooms. At least we monitor microcystin, which is one of the toxic algal species. And our watch levels are exceeded during most summer months. Warnings are frequent. So we are experiencing problems with harmful algae as well. So we hired Fire Engineering from Omaha back in 2015 to start a multi-year modeling program. And they did a lot of sampling. They looked at all of our historical data and built a nice model of the phosphorus loading in our lake. And what they came up with was that, yes, a lot of the phosphorus in the lake is coming from external sources, primarily during that spring flush when the snow is melting and the spring rains are coming, and we're bringing in a winter's worth of accumulated nutrients. And so that was accounting for about 53% of the loading of phosphorus into the lake. But about 47%, almost half, was coming from internal loading sources. So we're talking here about the sediment. We've got 90 years worth of sediment at the bottom of that lake. It's accumulated nutrients over that entire time, and they're slowly releasing into the water column buffering anything we do to decrease the phosphorus coming into the lake from upstream. And the phosphorus that is coming into the lake from upstream is almost entirely dissolved. 66% is just dissolved phosphate. We're getting a little input, about 11% of the phosphate coming into the lake is coming from stream erosion and coming in as particulate, but the bulk of it is coming in as dissolved phosphorus. So that makes it less easy to attack. Also, they worked with their partner Verax Corporation to do some sediment studies, because we saw some unusual characteristics in our sedimentary cores. And what they found was that we have a ridiculously high proportion of ferrous instead of ferric iron in our lake sediments. And you know, I'm a chemist, I get excited about this sort of thing. So what that means is that instead of having iron 3 trapping phosphate in the lake sediments, which does a pretty good job of trapping phosphate, instead we've got iron 2. About 8 to 17% of the phosphate trapped in the sediments is bound to iron 2. And the trouble with iron 2 is it releases phosphorus quite easily. And so when we've got high phosphorus loading into the lake in the spring, we've got higher phosphate levels in the water, and some of it does partition into the sediment. But as soon as those levels start to drop, when we get low flow in the drier late summer months, then the iron 2 in the sediment starts re-releasing phosphorus into the water column. And that's where a lot of our internal loading is coming from. And we think we're seeing that in some of our more recent testing. This is the last 2 years worth of phosphorus monitoring that the city of Mitchell has been doing. And we've got 3 main locations where we survey. Upstream of the lake at the 406 bridge, which is blue, the center of the lake in orange, and the spillway in gray. And what we are finding is that last year, when we had a really high rain year, and there was constantly flood waters moving through the lake, all 3 sources had almost identical levels of phosphorus. But this year, with much lower flow coming through the lake, we see a decrease, like we do in most years, of the upstream input to the lake after about mid-June. But what we see in the center of the lake and the spillway is those levels continue to rise despite the fact that little additional phosphorus is entering the lake. And we think that reflects that internal loading, rebuffering the amount of phosphorus in our lake. And so at the end of their work for us, they suggested a number of approaches to mitigating these problems. First of all, yeah, we need to do continued watershed conservation improvement efforts, but on average, our upstream producers are already doing a decent job. There might be 1 or 2 that we could improve on, but they're already doing a pretty decent job on average. So in order to tackle the problem, we've got to deal with the fact that we're just draining a huge watershed. So we've got 2 strategies. One is a near lake impoundment, creation of wetlands to try and capture some of the nutrients as they come in the spring. And then we need to dredge the lake to remove the internal loading source. We've got to remove that 90 years worth of nutrient-laden sediments. I'll never forget when I was sitting in a city council meeting next to a farmer, and they were reporting on the levels of phosphate and nitrate that they found in the water and sediment sources. And he leaned over to me and he goes, "Those are almost the levels I spray on my fields in the spring." So we've got well-fertilized water. This is a huge project, and it's not the sort of thing a town of 16,000 people can tackle on its own. So we're building partnerships all over the place trying to work together to implement a version of this plan. So the city of Mitchell has already moved ahead with a $4.1 million purchase of property for about 390 acres to build a constructed wetland just upstream of the inlet of Lake Mitchell. To orient you, that blue star at the edge of the property that they've purchased, outlined in yellow, is the upriver sampling site at the 406 bridge from the earlier slide. So this is just upstream of the lake. And they're working with partners Ducks Unlimited, the NRCS, and a number of others, including Pheasants United and a few other partners, to build a constructed wetland, some low head dams, and build this area out into a filtering wetland to try and capture a lot of the nutrients coming in, especially during that spring flush. In addition, we're hoping that this will be part of our management strategy. We're putting in a lot of interpretive trails, and think there's a building on the property that we're hoping to turn into a research station so that we can use this property to also build public support for the ongoing cleaning of the lake. And we created a nonprofit group called the Friends of the Fire Steel, and I'm a board member, as you mentioned, of this group, and we're just getting off the ground. We intend to have a membership drive soon. We already are doing a feasibility study into the prospects of building a large enough pool of donated money to go after the dredging portion of this project. We're estimating right now that the dredging is going to be between $6 and $12 million, depending on which approach we go with. That's not counting engineering ahead of the scheme. So hopefully we'll be able to get this into a manageable amount of money and raise at least half of the funds so that we can partner with the city for the other half of the funds and get the in-lake loading problem taken care of. The city of Mitchell is also moving ahead with a number of other projects involving the lake, one of which is relevant, or two of which are relevant to our discussion. One is they've been working with North Dakota State University, environmental engineering and engineering professors and their students to develop plans for a marina and jetty close in that bay close to where that red star is on Lake Mitchell. And that is relevant to our discussion because the creation of that jetty, which it'll be a fishing location, it'll help protect the embayment where the marina is going to go, that is going to require source dirt in order to construct that jetty. And so we're combining the engineering strategy of pulling material to build the jetty and creating a place to put material when we dredge the lake. So we've managed to combine the engineering for those two projects into one engineering project, and that's going out for a statement of interest next week, I believe. And then also they're working on some near shore stabilization in that right at the inlet to the lake, where they're also hoping to reconstruct some wetlands that once existed where the water came into the lake, in the hopes, again, of capturing some of the nutrient input in the spring. And so we're working together with a number of other partners. The city's focusing primarily on the construction of the wetland, but also our engineering of the jetty source spoil disposal location and the bank stabilization, erosion control, including planting more wetland plants in the inlet to the lake, overlap with our projects. And then we're beginning the fundraising for the in-lake solution. We're also working with the city on development of joint plans and education and mobilization of public opinion, because there is the perception in our town that this is a problem for people who live on the lake. But even though everybody else in the town thinks it's important that we tackle working on the lake, they don't really want to pay for it. So by making it an outside entity that's soliciting the funds, we lose the perception that the city is spending money on somebody else. And so it's good optics for the city as well. And this is what we're headed for. We want to leave a legacy of a pretty lake, one that can help build our economic development, good recreation source for our future here. So too many people possibly to thank, but there is my contact information, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. So I have, as usual, used up most of my time.
Great. So I will say we are at a break now, 10:20 to 10:30. So if you need to take a break, go for it. Otherwise, we will run through the questions that we have, and anybody that goes on break, please rejoin at 10:30 for our next presentation. So first question, any tests or action regarding PFAS? I don't know if that's been something that you all have looked at all.
Not specifically, no. I mean, mostly what we've focused on is monitoring total phosphorus. I've done some work looking at species of algae in the lake, but I can't break it down by type of phosphorus.
Okay. Has the Senate Bill 66 buffer strip program, which gives some tax reduction, has that been effective in helping to put Firestill Creek acres in grass buffer strips? Have you seen any impact of that?
We think so. A lot of the people upstream, since that went into effect, have tried to take advantage of it. I know we have more people who are looking to participate, but you know, on average, our upstream producers are doing a decent job. It's just there's so many acres.
Right.
I mean, at that point, any change is going to be incremental.
Right.
So, I mean, even if one producer goes from being a large point source to putting in substantial buffer strips, dealing with it, and you know, not contributing very much, we hardly see it in the lake.
Sure. And then some questions related to sampling. So do you cover the whole lake for sampling, or you mentioned maybe 3 spots? That was kind of what you focused on?
Well,
right?
Yeah, the city focuses on those 3 spots.
Okay.
When FIRA did their sampling, they had extensive sampling locations around and on the lake. But we also have a lot of unofficial monitoring going on in the watershed. We have a local high school teacher who has used the lake as an outdoor classroom for the past decade and has tons of accumulated phosphorus and nitrate levels. And I and one of my colleagues who studies limnology have used the lake repeatedly. In fact, that's me with my students out there. We were doing some algae sampling.
Cool.
So
great.
We have a lot of unofficial data too.
Awesome. Good. So gonna jump to kind of some logistics. So sediment, this is from Jay, sediment removal, dredging really only works if sediment loading has been addressed. What has been done in this regard for the stream?
Well, the stream tends to be better scoured, and most of the stuff coming in is soluble. So if we're less worried about the sediment in the stream, we're intending right now to dredge a little ways up the watershed, at least towards the Lowhead Dam. We might, if budget permits, do some spring alum treatment, inject in an injector style right by that Lowhead Dam to try and stop it from reaching the lake. But you know, we've got 90 years of accumulated sediment down there that's just a marvelous buffer source.
Yep. And then a similar question, but relative to wetlands. It's from Sarah Fronzak. wetlands are great, but how are you going to harvest nutrients from the wetlands in order to keep the wetland from becoming a source of nutrients in the future?
Now that is on the city's side of the project plan, but I do believe they intend to do some harvesting of the constructed wetland on the Kelly property. But I don't know what the exact plans are at this time. I don't know if there are exact plans at this time. It's still sort of amorphous. We're working with Ducks Unlimited primarily to start construction of the Lowhead dams this coming fiscal year.
Nice. Great. And then a question relative to tile drainage. I don't know if you all broke it down in terms of agriculture sources, but do you know if tile drainage in the watershed is a specific source for dissolved phosphorus?
There is some, and I have the numbers, but they're in another document. It would take me too long to find them. But a lot of them were removed during the 2003 push to improve the watershed. And so now it's a minor source. I mean, yes, we do still have some tile drainage in the watershed. We'd like to eliminate it if we could, but again, we're already fairly low per acre coming into the lake, so it'll help, but it'll be incremental.
Okay. And then the last question: have you seen trends as phosphorus loading into the lake? Has that gone up or gone down year after year?
It is steadily increasing. It goes up highest in the spring, decreases if flow stops. If we dry up to the point that we fall below the spillway, input from upstream tends to diminish. Input from the sediment tends to increase and buffer it. So usually in the summer, we're seeing a fairly steady increase each year. So like in the early 2003, 2006, we were around 600 to 800 in the height of the summer. Now we're 1,200 to 1,400 parts per billion in the height of the summer. We see no reason why that would stop climbing if we do nothing.
Sure. All right. Well, I think that's it. If anyone else has any follow-up questions, there's Paula's contact information. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's again a topic that's relevant to a lot of stakeholders in the conference today, and appreciate your expertise and time.
Thank you very much for having me.